And again, off in the distance on the right-hand side, that sharp, pointy little peak, Mount Makana, or Bali High. And just in case anybody's ever wondering if the word Bali High has any meaning in the Hawaiian language, I will tell you that it does not. In fact, the Hawaiian alphabet doesn't even have the letter B in it. Alright guys, I know I was making a lot of twists and turns here along the Napali, but I wanted to give everybody a great opportunity to see this beautiful coastline from both sides. So for the next couple of minutes, I'm going to try and keep the aircraft as straight and level as I possibly can, giving all of our stomachs a little chance to settle down.
Is the beach to the right? Is that where I hiked out yesterday, like 2 miles?
So that, yeah, that little sandy beach, that's a 2.2 mile marker. It's called the Hanakapiai Beach. If you hike up that valley another 2 miles, crossing the stream 5 separate times, but there's a 300-foot waterfall at the very end. It's about a 7.5 hour round trip hike. The beach is definitely not a swimming beach, so I wouldn't even touch your toes in the water. There's a pretty mean undertow there. When you get to the bottom of the trail right before the river crossing, there's a block of wood with the numbers etched into it of all the people that unfortunately have drowned at that beach. On the right side, there's a little beach in a corner there. That's Ke'e Beach. That's the very end of the road here on the North Shore. But back in ancient times, that was home to the first hula school in all of the Hawaiian Islands. Just out the right door, there's a large reef sticking out here. That's Tunnels Reef. The surfers, they like to say that it got its name Tunnels because of the large tubes in the waves during the winter months. But the scuba divers, they like to say that it got its name Tunnels because of all the underwater swim-throughs and lava tubes. There's a little town just out the right side. That's the town of Haena. Back in the 1960s, Elizabeth Taylor's brother Howard had some property there. He tried to develop on it, but the state wouldn't grant him his permits. So he turned it into a hippie commune. They called it the Taylor Camp. So that song playing in the background, that's a theme song to that movie South Pacific film right here on Kauai. Just off the right front, there's a stretch of sandy beach we're going to fly right over the top of here. This is called Lumahai Beach, but in that movie, this was known as Nurses Beach. This is where Mitzi Gaynor washed that man right out of her hair.
Is the island growing?
No, Kauai is actually shrinking, and it is the oldest of the Hawaiian Islands. The last volcanic eruption occurred over 5 million years ago, so right now erosion is starting to take its toll on the island. As we head inland here, look down on either side, you see some patties. Those are taro patches. Back in ancient times, there was no refrigeration, So in order to preserve the meat and fish, they had to salt it. Well, of course, when it came time to eating it, it was quite salty. So they take this taro root they mashed into a paste. We call this poi. Now, if any of you have been to one of our Hawaiian luau's, you had the opportunity to taste that bland-tasting paste. However, I'm told it's not too bad when you take some of that meat, vegetables, dip it into your poi, and you eat it together. Myself, I never have been able to acquire a taste for that junk, but I will go to the grocery stores. I go to the potato chip aisle, I buy me a bag of taro chips. So off in the distance out the left-hand side is the town of Princeville. Closer in here we have the town of Hanalei. You also have that famous Hanalei Bay and the pier. Now Hanalei, it means lei-shaped. So if any of you guys ever want to catch dinner at the same restaurant that George Clooney and his family did in the movie Descendants, when you drive into the town of Hanalei, on the right-hand side of the road is a little place called Tahiti Nui. That's where they were in that movie. So coming in a view out the right side, and I'll put this out the left side here shortly, in the center of that mountain there's a 2,300-foot waterfall. It's called Vai Ole, which means the chanting waters. Believe it or not though, that does not meet the true definition of a waterfall. That's because there is no continuous source of water that feeds that. If you were to go to the top of that mountain, you would not find a lake, river, stream, or pond feeding that. What happens is the moisture-laden clouds, they get brought across the Pacific Ocean by the trade winds. Well, they get pushed up against this mountain face right there, and it squeezes the water out of the clouds like a giant sponge, saturating the ground, giving us the waterfall. Now the queen was once back here. She heard what sounded to be like chanting, so she decided to investigate the sound. Well, she found out it was coming from this waterfall, hence the name, the Chanting Waters. Down below is the Hanalei River Valley. Along the riverbed, you'll see some silverish green colored treetops scattered about. That's the state tree of Hawaii, known as the kukui nut. Ancient Hawaiians, though, they called this tree the candle nut tree. That's because they used to take the nuts, they light them on fire, it'd give them their candlelight for about 20 to 25 minutes. When I was growing up, though, this tree was known as the 1-2-3 tree. That's because the oils in the nuts are also a very powerful natural laxative. So they say by the time you eat one of the nuts and count to 3, well, we all know what happens. One of the questions I frequently get asked, and if you spend any time at all here on the island, you'll be asking this very same question, and that is, why are there so many chickens on Kauai? Well, in the Filipino culture, even though it's illegal, cockfighting is very popular even to this day. So many will raise fighting chickens in their yards. We also used to have an egg-laying farm here on the island that provided the residents with fresh eggs. But in 1992, Hurricane Inike was a Category 5 hurricane, swept through the island, damaging or destroying many of those chicken coops. Well, they got loose. They have no natural predator here. They breed like rabbits. And now we have a new island bird called the chicken. So this large mountain directly in front of us here, this is Mount Waialeale. At over 5,100 feet, it's the second tallest mountain peak on the island. It's also one of the world's wettest spots. There's a rain gauge up there, and some years it registers over 440 inches of rain. Now just to put that in perspective, that's over 36 feet or 12 meters of rain per year. There's also a little pond up there, and when the ancient Hawaiians would go up there to worship, they noticed that when the winds blew, it caused the waters to ripple on that pond. Hence the name Waialeale. It means the rippling waters. So an eruption millions of years ago, it blew out the east-facing wall of the crater here, giving us an opportunity to take a peek into the caldera, or the cone of an extinct volcano. We call this the Weeping Wall. Now this is my favorite spot here on the island.
Take like mountain bikes or dirt bikes on these trails, or is it only walking?
Yeah, especially this one here really is no trail. You just rock hop up from the riverbed here. It takes about 8.5, 9 hours round trip. Some of the trails, though, there are accessible is accessible by like mountain bikes, and the problem with dirt bikes is a lot of these are on state land, and they have signage that says no motocross or ATV vehicles allowed. And then the rest of it is on private property, and to haul a dirt bike onto that land, you'll be trespassing. If you look out on either side and scattered through the island, you see those trees with the large flat canopies. Those are called albizia. Now many will say they came from South Africa, but through a little research I discovered that this variety actually came from Indonesia in the early 1900s. To forest some of the island, they're a rapid growing tree. They can grow up to 20 feet or 7 meters in their first year, 120 feet or 40 meters in their lifetime. But with this rapid growth, they're very weak. So during some of the stronger windstorms, they fall over, causing damages and blocking of the roads. They're also highly invasive. Just look around, they're taking over the island. So there's millions of dollars being allocated to the state to stop the spread of this tree. Now here on Kauai, what they're doing is they're taking those wood, turning it into wood chips. There's a state-of-the-art biomass electric generation plant on the island that supposedly has an eco-friendly way of burning those wood chips, generating some renewable energy for the island. Now, I only saw the movie once, and I was trying to pick out some landmarks I could point out to everyone. I didn't see too many in this particular film, but that was Jurassic World. Movie number 4 in the Jurassic Park movies is filmed right here on Kauai. There's a bright green grassy area we're almost over the top of. I can't tell you some of those filmed right down here below us. But you can hardly tell that now, though. That's because we have an agreement with Hollywood. Anytime a movie production wraps up on the island, they have to leave the location equal to or better than the way they found it. So many times within a month or two of leaving, you can't tell that anything was ever filmed in that location. So cattle ranching, that's become a pretty lucrative replacement for the sugar industry. I'm told that the restaurants on the mainland, they prize the Kauai beef because it's all grass-fed and free range.
When they're filming a movie and you guys flying all day long, do you have like sort of arrangement with them?
Sometimes what they'll do is they'll coordinate with the FAA, and the FAA will create a temporary flight restricted area. Anytime they're using explosives or other aircraft in the neighborhood and stuff like that, then they'll usually have us maintain a certain altitude. Out the left side, now bring it down the right shortly, we have the twin waterfalls of the Wailua Falls. And then sometimes they'll just reach out to us and say, hey, look, we've got some sound-sensitive filming going on. Could you avoid these areas? And you know, it's only for a couple of hours or maybe at the day at the most, and we can usually accommodate them on that.
Is this the waterfall that kid jumped off of?
Yeah, that knucklehead. Yeah, because back in ancient times, young men used to prove their manhood or bravery by jumping off this waterfall. But that pool was much deeper back then, and then some yahoo filmed himself and jumped off and knocked himself out cold. Luckily, there was 2 people down there illegally, because you're not allowed to be down there anyways, and the daughter was a lifeguard, and she saw him pop up to the surface and was able to pull him out of the water. A closer look at that waterfall. Take Highway 583, takes you right there to that scenic overlook. Yeah, another 2 kids a while back, they jumped off that, broke their legs, got hurt pretty bad. We had a lady that fell down the trail, broke a leg, had to bring a helicopter in to pull her out because the trail was too steep to get her out.
I haven't seen really any solar farms or anything like that. Like, how do you guys get all your power?
That large gray area with the white buildings, that's one of the brand new solar farms there. Built in conjunction with Tesla. Those white buildings are battery storage units, so the electricity actually goes back into the grid at night. all of those tanks in front of it here, this other building, that's one of the 3 fossil fuel fired power plants. Believe it or not, 2 years ago in September, we were running 97% of the island only on solar power. There's a goal here that by 2025, Kauai will be 100% self-reliant on its own energy production. I haven't had electric bill in 5 years. I put 24 panels on my roof, and I was one of the last to get a clause to be able to sell back my energy. So this year alone, I'm going to be getting about $900 credit for selling my electricity back to the utility.
So, are you guys going to end up selling power to the other island?
No. There's no infrastructure to establish something like that. They would have to run a line all the way across. We have 3 power plants on the island, and then in 1992, when they had the hurricane, they noticed that because we weren't on a grid system, that parts of the islands were out of electricity for a long, long time because the power plant was damaged. So then they created what they call the power line trail, where you can hike some of it around the island to interconnect all of these power plants. But unfortunately now, when one power plant goes offline, it tends to trip the circuit breakers on the other one, and it knocks out power to the whole damn island. Well guys, we have been given the clearance to land, so I want to take this opportunity to say mahalo nui loa, or thank you very much on behalf of myself, Paka, and the rest of the ground crew there at Safari Helicopters. I sure hope you guys had as much fun as I did exploring the island today. I hope the remainder of your stay here on Kauai is a pleasant one. We'll be on the ground shortly. Once we do get on the ground and everybody's off, don't run away. Hang out on the grass just beside the helicopter, have your cameras out and ready. There's going to be an opportunity for everyone to have some photos taken beside the helicopter. The only thing I ask is please do not remove those life preservers. For safety reasons, we're not allowed to set anything on the ground out here. So if you don't want to see them in your photos, just slide them behind you and wear them on your backside. So I think my next passengers are running behind, so I'm actually going to shut it down here so maybe make it much quieter for those picture taking. Alright guys, be just 1 second here. If you want to unstrap your seatbelts, you can. I leave those headphones on for just a little bit longer. Be much